Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into what is honestly the ultimate awe-inspiring evolutionary matchup between the ocean's most lethal prehistoric apex predators. You know, the ocean has always been the most dangerous place on Earth, and that's not because of storms or water pressure, but because of what has evolved to live inside it over millions and millions of years. We're talking about things so perfectly and lethally optimized that the word monster just kind of feels totally inadequate. Today we're looking at two animals that stood at the absolute apex of the ocean food chain in the last 100 million years. In terms of raw, unadulterated predatory supremacy, literally nothing else comes close.
So what actually happens when the ultimate marine reptile meets the ultimate marine mammal? Well, let's set the stage here for a fascinating biological thought experiment. We are pitting the cold-blooded, incredibly agile reptile, the Mosasaurus, against the warm-blooded, absolute tank of a mammal, the Livyatan. This is a clash of completely opposing evolutionary philosophies, right? You've got warm blood versus cold, sonar versus visual ambush, and the mammalian brain versus reptilian reflex. It is the ultimate matchup. And today, we're going to use the fossil record to figure out exactly how this prehistoric clash of titans would play out.
66 million years ago, in the Late Cretaceous, we had the Mosasaur extinction. 50 million years ago, mammals returned to the ocean. And 12 million years ago, in the Miocene epoch, Livyatan achieves dominance. Now, to ground our explainer in scientific reality, we first have to recognize this massive 54 million year gap separating these titans across time. These animals never coexisted. The Mosasaur dominated those warm, shallow seas of the Late Cretaceous right up until 66 million years ago. And then it took tens of millions of years for mammals to transition back into the oceans, eventually leading to the Miocene epoch, where Livyatan basically achieved total dominance.
Okay, a squamate is a group of reptiles, including modern lizards and snakes. It's the ancestral lineage of the Mosasaur. We begin our breakdown with Mosasaurus hoffmannii. And the very first thing you need to know is that it wasn't a dinosaur and it definitely wasn't a fish. It was a squamate. It was, in the most literal biological sense you can imagine, a 15-ton lizard. Over tens of millions of years, evolution took a standard terrestrial lizard lineage and reshaped it into this 17-meter aquatic missile. And crucially, the fossil evidence reveals that they evolved this downward-lobed shark-like tail to efficiently propel themselves through the open water, which is just a brilliant example of convergent evolution in action.
An intramandibular joint is a second joint partway along the lower jaw, allowing it to flex and expand in 3 dimensions. And this brings us to the Mosasaur's most terrifying feature. This wasn't just a standard jaw hinge. Paired with loosely connected chin bones, this meant the Mosasaur's mouth could actually flex and expand in 3 dimensions to totally engulf massive prey. And inside that expanding mouth, on the roof of the palate, were these backward-facing pterygoid teeth. Their function? Basically to act as a one-way ratchet. Once prey went in, there was no exiting. It was simply ratcheted downward into the throat. The Mosasaur didn't even chew. It just processed.
It was an ambush and active pursuit predator, using explosive acceleration from a stationary hover and a sinuous side-to-side body undulation to dominate the warm, shallow Cretaceous seas. So how did it use this lethal anatomy? Well, in those shallow seas filled with sea turtles and plesiosaurs, it could execute explosive acceleration from a completely stationary hover just by whipping that powerful tail fluke. It sustained those high-speed pursuits with a sinuous snake-like side-to-side body motion. For 15 million years, this serpent-like agility and explosive ambush tactics made it the undisputed apex predator, right up until the Chicxulub asteroid hit and wiped them out.
The ocean reset, and into the void poured the mammals. That asteroid caused the ocean's ecosystems to completely reset. I mean, 75% of Earth's species just vanished. And into that massive ecological void, over tens of millions of years, poured the mammals. Terrestrial hoofed animals, specifically even-toed ungulates, began spending more and more time in the coastal shallows. Over an incredible 50 million year span, they actually transformed their front legs into flippers, lost their hind legs entirely, and became these enormous, ocean-dominating cetaceans.
36. Fast forward to the Miocene epoch, roughly 12 to 13 million years ago, to meet the apex of that mammalian hierarchy, Livyatan melvillei. Discovered in Peru, this raptorial sperm whale was an absolute behemoth, and the key to its terror really comes down to that single number, 36. Livyatan possessed massive, fully functional, interlocking conical teeth up to 36 centimeters long. That is about 14 inches. They are the largest functional teeth of any known animal in the entire fossil record, and they were anchored in a heavy, bone-crushing 3-meter skull built literally like a battering ram.
The spermaceti organ is a structure in the whale's enormous forehead, capable of producing massive sonar pulses. Now, how is inside that huge, blocky forehead was a highly specialized piece of biological hardware. Modern sperm whales use this exact organ to generate clicks reaching up to 230 decibels. But for Livyatan, this wasn't just a tool for navigating the dark ocean depths, it was a potential weapon. It could emit a biosonar pulse so incredibly loud and powerful that it was fully capable of disorienting, stunning, or debilitating its prey before it even opened its mouth.
We're talking warm-blooded stamina in deep, cold water, thick blubber acting as impact armor, advanced cetacean cognitive processing, and an active raptorial predator relying on force. Behind those record-shattering teeth was an absolute arsenal of distinct mammalian advantages. Livyatan had a hot-running, warm-blooded metabolism giving it incredible stamina in deep, freezing water where a cold-blooded reptile would naturally just slow down. Plus, it was wrapped in thick blubber that didn't just keep it warm, it acted as literal structural, impact-absorbing armor. Furthermore, its brain scale suggests highly advanced cetacean cognitive processing. So this wasn't just some reflex-driven hunter. This was an active, raptorial predator, relying on immense intelligence and overwhelming brute force.
Now, when we weigh these titans against each other in the tail of the tape, the contrasts are pretty stark. They're actually comparable in length, both maxing out around 17 meters. But look at the mass. The Mosasaur is roughly 15 tons, while the whale is a staggering 50 to 60 tons. Then check out the bite force. The reptile's precise gripping bite maxes out around 15,000 newtons, which, is definitely formidable. But Livyatan delivers a devastating 150,000 plus newton crushing force. The whale also boasts sustained top speeds of 4 to 6 meters per second, whereas the Mosasaur really relies on 3 to 5 meters per second in short, explosive bursts.
Agility, angular acceleration, and explosive ambush strikes on one side, massive momentum, advanced sonar awareness, and blubber armor on the other. Their fighting philosophies are perfectly opposed. We have the lizard's serpentine agility, capable of rapid angular acceleration to strike from totally unexpected angles in an ambush. And on the flip side, we have the mammal's straight-line, freight-train kinetic energy, heavily reliant on mass, momentum, and advanced situational awareness through sonar. The Mosasaur wants to strike fast and deep to end the fight instantly. Livyatan wants to absorb the hit and deliver catastrophic blunt force trauma.
Deep water, no cover, just pure biology. So here is the absolutely crucial point. What happens when we place them in a hypothetical open water arena? To make this a true, pure test of their evolutionary hardware, we are completely stripping the Mosasaur of the shallow sea environments, the reefs, and the kelp forests it normally used for ambush cover. We're putting them in the midwater column, roughly 50 meters down. No advantages, just deep water, zero cover, and pure biology. Let's watch this clash unfold.
Visual target detection versus sonar tracking, the explosive ambush strike, the mammalian blubber defense, and finally the bone-crushing ramming counterattack. Here is exactly how this biological showdown progresses, step by step. The Mosasaur spots the whale visually through the clear water and instantly calculates a cold, explosive ambush strike, targeting the whale's mobility. It angles downward and accelerates. But step 1 changes everything. The Mosasaur's visual strike is totally preempted. Why? Because Livyatan has been tracking the reptile's exact position, velocity, and trajectory via biosonar clicks before the attack was even launched. 5. Despite the whale's awareness, the Mosasaur still manages to land its incredibly fast, explosive bite directly on the whale's flank. It's a massive, genuine impact, but here is where 5 crucial centimeters change the entire game. The Mosasaur's teeth sink into 5 centimeters of thick mammalian blubber. In basically any other animal, this strike would completely cripple their locomotion, but against Livyatan, that blubber layer just absorbs and distributes the force. The underlying muscle structure remains perfectly intact. The Mosasaur completely fails to cripple the whale.
The physics of a collision, not a bite. And you know what? That failure is fatal, because the whale hasn't slowed down at all. Livyatan effortlessly pivots inside the reptile's turning radius. As the Mosasaur frantically tries to reset its flexible serpentine body, Livyatan delivers a bone-crushing ramming blow with its 3-meter reinforced skull. Make no mistake, this is the physics of a collision, not a bite. The immense impact force completely fractures the reptile's ribs and compromises its internal organs, utilizing the whale's sheer 60-ton mass to decisively end the fight long before it finally closes its massive jaws.
The direct lines of these titans ended, leaving a balanced web of specialized marine hunters. In reality, of course, both of these extraordinary rulers eventually vanish from the Earth. The Mosasaur was wiped out in an instant by a sudden 6-mile-wide asteroid that changed the planet way too fast for them to adapt. Livyatan fading away later due to shifting, cooling Miocene ecologies and changes in prey distributions. Today, their direct lines are just gone, replaced by a much more balanced network of specialized predators. Think orcas and great whites, where power is distributed across many species rather than being concentrated into a single, unstoppable monarch.
What other ancient Leviathans still remain hidden in the fossil record beneath the ocean floor? Looking back at these creatures is just a super humbling reminder that we are absolutely not the most dangerous things on Earth, and our time here is incredibly recent. It leaves us with a profound, lingering question to end on. What other massive titans are still waiting to be unearthed in the deep time archive of our planet? The ocean still carries their memory in its bones, and there's just so much more history left to explore. Keep your curiosity sharp, and thank you so much for joining me on this explainer.